All right, good evening. Well, welcome. Good to have you folks here for our Good Friday worship service here at Hope. We're thankful to have you join us. If you did not grab a journal, there are enough to where we'd love for all of you to consider grabbing one in the back, as well as a writing utensil. There will be a number of times throughout the evening where we're just going to invite you to pause, take some time, write down a few thoughts if you'd like. You don't have to. It is spring break for many as of today, so if it feels like school, don't do it. Don't do it. Our Good Friday service is one that is meant to be both interactive and contemplative. It's an opportunity, again, to just reflect on the depth of the story. Easter is the best day of the year, but in order to get there, it's so important that we stop and spend time at the cross, and so we're taking time to do that today. There will be a number of times where you'll be invited to sing, to pray. Those times will be up on the screen, so you'll be able to follow along with those songs and those other opportunities when they happen as well. I invite you to do that. But to begin, let's just start with this. So the reality is, all of us come here today distracted. We had all kinds of things that happened in our day already. For many of you who are at work, for those of you that are retired, you probably worked harder today because it was sunny and you enjoyed being outside. We've all got a phone attached to us. Most of us have our phones attached to our watches as well. I invite you to take some time to not be distracted. I invite you to put down your phones. Stop staring at those little tiny screens for a little while. And take a little bit of time just to be fully present here. Whatever those things are that it's, again, so pressing, this would be your first opportunity. There you go. I know. That was my wife right there. That was perfect. That was super good. No explanation necessary. I know. It's all good. I would invite you, again, if you'd like, you want to get your journals out, it might be helpful to literally write down the things that are distracting you, to put them there, because then they will be there when our time here is done and we're able to go back to all the noise and all the other distractions that are going on in our life. But to begin, I invite you just to pause, reflect, journal if you'd like, have some time in prayer. In a few minutes, we'll gather together and sing in our first song.
Come out of sadness from wherever you've been. Come broken hearted, let rescue begin. Come find your mercy, O sinner, come near. Earth has no sorrow that heaven can heal. Earth has no sorrow that heaven can heal. So lay down your burden, lay down your shame. All who are broken, lift up your face. Wanderer, come home. You're not too far. So lay down your hurt, lay down your heart. Come as you are. There's hope for the hopeless and all those who stray. Come sit at the table, come taste the grace. There's rest for the weary, a rest that endures. Earth has no sorrow that heaven can cure. So lay down your burden, lay down your shame. All who are broken, lift up your face. Wanderer, come home. You're not too far. So lay down your hurt, lay down your heart. Come as you are. Come as you are. Fall in his arms. Come as you are. There's joy for the morning. O sinner, be still. Earth has no sorrow that heaven can heal. Earth has no sorrow that heaven can heal. Let's sing that verse again. There's joy for the morning. O sinner, be still. Earth has no sorrow that heaven can heal. Earth has no sorrow that heaven can heal. So lay down your burdens, lay down your shame. All who are broken, lift up your face. Wanderer, come home. You're not too far. So lay down your hurt, lay down your heart, lay down your burdens, lay down your shame. All who are broken, lift up your face. Wanderer, come So lay down your hurt, lay down your heart, come as you are. Oh, come as you are. Come as you are.
Our Old Testament reading this evening comes from Micah chapter 4. In the last days, the mountain of the Lord's house will be the highest of all, the most important place on earth. It will be raised above the other hills, and people from all over the world will stream there to worship. People from many nations will come and say, "Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of Jacob's God. There he will teach us his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For the Lord's teaching will go out from Zion. His word will go out from Jerusalem. The Lord will mediate between peoples and will settle disputes between strong nations far away. They will hammer their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation will no longer fight against nation nor train for war anymore. Everyone will live in peace and prosperity, enjoying their own grapevines and fig trees, for there will be nothing to fear. The Lord of heaven's armies has made this promise." So that passage from Micah paints just a beautiful picture of a time to come when people beat their swords into plowshares and pruning hooks, when nation will no longer war against nation. And the reality is, we aren't in that time. We know it, we live it, we see it all the time. And it is overwhelming. It is something that I think we carry with us. There is both a weight of the wars that are currently going on that we see, so much so that oftentimes we don't want to see it. It is easy for us to turn off the TV when they talk about Gaza, when they talk about Ukraine. And it is hard. Sometimes it feels like there's not much we can do about that, and I'm not sure that we can. Perhaps even harder, it feels like sometimes that anger, that war has been brought home. There's been an increase in what some call tribalism, if you will, whereas that used to be a word that could denote actually really positive things, your tribe, your family, those that mattered so much to you. Now it's become just a negative. It has become, well, are you for me or are you against me? Do you agree with everything that I think and that I say? Or do you disagree and therefore you are wrong? And you are the enemy. And you're someone I now need to fight. I think of the noise, the yelling, the anger that surrounded Jesus on this day. There were, again, so many different tribes. There were the Romans, of course, and there were the religious elites. There were those who were there just to see a fight. And with every single one of those groups, I think it was personal. One of the great tragedies of our day today is that most bullies can now hide behind computer screens. So much anger and vitriol can be sent without you ever having to see a person face to face. Jesus saw all their faces, every single one, as they yelled, as they spit, as they called for his head. And how did Jesus handle it? Well, on this day, he doesn't engage, not in this fight. If you look through his time, you see that there are times that he confronted, sometimes quite boldly so. But here tonight, he knows it's literally not worth his breath. He has to save that. I'd invite you to spend a little time reflecting. Thinking about those times when there's something we can do, when there's something we can say, when there's an opportunity for us to confront something that can and needs to be confronted. And when are there times when we need to hold our breath? When it is not our fight. When it is not something that we need to get engaged in. What are the things going on in our world that you are lamenting? That you'd love for God to intervene on? Where are those things in the world that God is lamenting? And he's calling us to intervene on. Do I just spend some time reflecting on that? For our gospel reading this evening, we'll be reading from the Gospel of Mark in the 15th chapter. This begins at verse 16. The soldiers took Jesus into the courtyard of the governor's headquarters, called the Praetorium, and called out the entire regiment. They dressed him in a purple robe, and they wove thorn branches into a crown and put it on his head. Then they saluted him and taunted, "Hail, King of the Jews." And they struck him on the head with a reed stick, spit on him, and dropped to their knees in mock worship. When they were finally tired of mocking him, they took off their purple robe and put his own clothes on him again. Then they led him away to be crucified. A passerby named Simon, who was from Cyrene, was coming in from the countryside just then. And the soldiers forced him to carry Jesus' cross. Simon was the father of Alexander and Rufus. And they brought Jesus to a place called Golgotha, which means place of the skull. They offered him wine drugged with myrrh, but he refused it. Then the soldiers nailed him to the cross. They divided his clothes and threw dice to decide who would get each piece. It was 9 o'clock in the morning when they crucified him. A sign announced the charge against him. It read, "The King of the Jews." 2 revolutionaries were crucified with him, one on his right and one on his left. The people passing by shouted abuse, shaking their heads in mockery. "Ha, look at you now," they yelled at him. "You said you were going to destroy the temple and rebuild it in 3 days. Well, then save yourself and come down from the cross." The leading priests and teachers of religious law also mocked Jesus. "He saved others," they scoffed, "but he can't save himself. Let this Messiah, this King of Israel, come down from the cross so we can see it and believe him." Even the men who were crucified with Jesus ridiculed him. At noon, darkness fell across the whole land until 3 o'clock. Then at 3 o'clock, Jesus called out with a loud voice, "Eloi, Eloi, lema sabachthani," which means, my God, why have you abandoned me?" Some of the bystanders misunderstood and thought he was calling for the prophet Elijah. One of them ran and filled a sponge with sour wine, holding it up to him on a reed stick so he could drink. "Wait," he said, "let's see whether Elijah comes to take him down." Then Jesus uttered another loud cry and breathed his last. And the curtain in the sanctuary of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. When the Roman officer who stood facing him saw how he had died, he exclaimed, "This man truly was the Son of God." There are so many pieces of that story that stand out to me every single time. Simon of Cyrene, I think, is fascinating. This innocent bystander who just happens to be walking by and carries the burden of Christ's cross for a little while. Clearly, it made an incredible impact on him because Simon's children are named. They must have been important in the early church for all that to have happened. There is the statement by the outsider at the very end. He's the first to really say it. This Roman centurion who says, "Yeah, this was different. This was not what we thought." And they'd seen many crucifixions before. No, this one ends with something entirely different. It ends with an outsider saying, "No, this was the Son of God," just as it said. But there's one thing that always stands out to me every time I hear that story, and that is the cloth in the temple being torn in two. If you're unfamiliar with how that worked, there was a time where the temple was fully present and built. And again, Jesus had been talking about that for a while. He kept saying this temple is going to be destroyed. Mark actually is almost certainly writing his gospel at the time that the temple has just recently been destroyed. It was destroyed, and shortly after that, Mark took it upon himself to write this story because he saw it as a time that people needed hope. The temple was such a great symbol, a unifier for so many people in that region. When it had been totally knocked down, they didn't know what to do. And so Mark came in order to remind them of that. Hey, Jesus said there was going to be a time when the temple wasn't going to be here, but he would raise it up again in 3 days. Well, again, that was still not in their mind. They had this idea of this temple. And in the temple, there was a cloth that separated God from the people. God was behind the cloth. God was behind the curtain. And that was really important. And I say this with all kindness because, again, it's easy to see things in hindsight. But at the time, the idea of God needing to be from a distance absolutely permeated not only that society, but every society. If you talked about the false gods of the time, they had an idea of what those gods were, and they absolutely believed, if you've read Percy Jackson or watched the really above-average TV show, the really terrible movie, if you've watched any of those, there's this idea that if you were to see those gods, again, false gods, Zeus and all that, but if you were to see them in their true form, you would die. So anytime they became into their true form, you averted your eyes. Even for, again, the one true God inside of Judaism at that time, they saw God as separate, as apart. They worked so hard to maintain that they wouldn't say what they believed to be God's given name, the name that God gives to Moses when he reveals himself at the start of the Exodus. So instead, although that name is actually written in our Hebrew scriptures, they had different vowel markings at that point so that when you got to that, you wouldn't say Yahweh, you would say Adonai, you would say the Lord, to make sure you didn't even say God's name. And Jesus shows up and says that's not how it's supposed to be. Jesus is God with us right from the very beginning. And there's this concern that when Jesus dies and rises, that we'll go back to thinking that there needs to be this separation. And so something remarkable happens. This curtain tears. Now, I don't know about you, but I've tried really hard to rip cloth and curtains. Back when I was a kid, I always thought it was cool when those wrestlers would just like rip their shirts and look all Hulk-like. I tried that too. Didn't work very well. I can't do it. I've been working out all week just for tonight, and it is impossible for me to tear this. But if you know anything about something like this, all it takes is just a little bit of break. And then it shreds as easily as it possibly can. So much so that you can't put it back together again. Jesus tears the curtain in two. At the moment that he gives up his last breath, the curtain is torn in two. We actually know tonight, not just on Easter, we know tonight that God is with us, that he is present here with us, that everything that Jesus said he was going to do, he accomplishes. Tonight there is good news, because the curtain, it's shredded. Oh, I thought I had it. Another piece. Let's do just a little bit more. It's pretty fun. If you guys want to, I'll let you tear some later. I would invite you for this next little bit of time to be honest. Are there barriers that you still place before you and God? Are there blocks that you still keep between you and Jesus? Because I think that's the reality. We put those up. And Jesus is in the business of knocking them down, of tearing them away. So take a little bit of time to reflect on that. Consider that. What are those in your life that maybe you need to be honest about? And tonight, know that Jesus is willing to tear that away as well.
such love and sorrow meet. All thorns composed, so rich a crown. Oh, the wonderful cross. Oh, the wonderful cross bids me come and die and find that I may truly live. Oh, the wonderful cross. Oh, the wonderful cross. All who gather here by grace draw near and bless your name. Were the whole realm of nature mine, that were an offering small, far too small. Oh, love so amazing, so divine, demands my soul, my life, my all. Oh, the wonderful cross. Oh, the wonderful cross bids me come and die and find that I may truly live. Oh, the wonderful cross. Oh, the wonderful cross. All who gather here by grace draw near and bless your name. Oh, the wonderful cross. Oh, the wonderful cross bids me come and die and find that I may truly live. Oh, the wonderful cross. Oh, the wonderful cross. All who gather here by grace draw near and bless your name. And love so amazing, so divine, demands my soul, my life, my all.
Wanted to share together in the Lord's Prayer. If you've been here over the last several weeks, you know I would invite us to say this at the same time, but not in unison. So I invite you to follow along, but share the words that you'd like to share as you make this your prayer your own tonight. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Let's share in Psalm 23 together as well. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. I invite you to consider what else God has been saying to you here tonight. Take a little bit more time for reflection on that. Write down those thoughts as they might come to you.
How deep the Father's love for us, how vast beyond our measure, that He should give His only Son to make a wretch His treasure. How great the pain of searing loss! The Father turns His face away, as wounds which mar the chosen one bring many sons to glory.
Behold the man upon the cross, sin that held him there until it was accomplished. His dying breath has brought me life. I know that it is finished.
I will not boast in anything, no gifts, no power, no wisdom, but I will boast in Jesus Christ, his death and resurrection. Why should I gain from his reward? I cannot give an answer, but this I know with all my heart: his wounds have paid my ransom.
This concludes the formal time of our worship. You're invited to stay, spend time in reflection, prayer, journal a bit more if you'd like. And when you're ready, I invite you to leave in quiet. We'll see you back here on Easter morning.